So good evening, everyone. Welcome. Your apologies tonight from Justin and Kirsten. They're having some time out. And also Justin won't be here for the retreat day, going to Sydney. And as Clint, you won't be here for the retreat day, and Meg. And also May's not here tonight, nor for the retreat day or next Thursday. She's doing a week's forest retreat. And also Peter, who often comes, he's not here tonight. He's here for the retreat day. There may have been a few other people that mentioned they were going to be here tonight, but I can't remember now. But we're here, so let's settle in with our evening. So having established our comfortable sitting position, aligning our body with some degree of symmetry, balance, poise, helping to enable some inner mindful presence. Our eyes gently closed, helping to bring our awareness within, and having our initial deep, relaxing, letting go breath. Using these moments now to relax, release, let go of any stress, any issues, any concerns, the happenings of the day, the happenings of the week so far. Using this time to align mind, body into the present moment, and especially through noticing and feeling each soothing, therapeutic breath. Mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, leading to samadhi, concentration, and maybe even into jhana, absorption, through the process of letting go of the 5 hindrances, the things that hinder or get in the way of a calm, still, quiet mind. So in terms of setting up our body, feeling our body sitting here, checking in on a few points of contact, feeling our feet connecting with the floor, point of mindfulness, feet connecting with the floor. Feeling our body connecting with the chair or cushion or meditation stool. Feeling that. Seeing the placement of our hands and fingers, making sure they feel comfortable, adjusting them if we need to. Awareness up to our face, noticing our face, even feeling maybe the air connecting with our face. And the perception of subtle light coming in through the closed eyelids. Even having a forward focused gaze into the space in front through the closed eyelids. Into that lightness, brightness, or blankness. Engaging or being distracted by background sounds. And particularly not getting caught into the internal mental sight or sound of thoughts, and rather making our quality of attention significant by focusing onto the natural, neutral experience of breathing. A naturally flowing breath as we feel it, particularly at the nose, nostril area. Directing attention, sustaining attention to feel the inflow, outflow of each breath, helping to quieten the mind, calm the body, allowing for inner ease, feeling that natural inflow, outflow of each breath, receiving, relinquishing, allowing, letting go, feeling each naturally occurring breath, helping to lighten and brighten the mind, enabling an inner peaceful presence. Couple of minutes of this meditation, just allowing ourselves to savor the moment, savoring the present, bathing in the balm of the atmosphere, a sense of simply sitting, listening, hearing the sounds of the day winding into evening, sensing the change in temperature, feeling on the body with the air and atmosphere. A sense of ease and simply being, savoring the occasion. The gentle ebb and flow of each breath, a calm knowing. We're ready to end the meditation, just taking a deep breath and slowly opening our eyes to finish. So to any tea or biscuits. You see the moon? Not yet?
Yep. Oh, there it is.
Oh, wow.
Looking in the wrong direction.
Amazing to see that rise into the ocean. I mean, it's amazing to see it there. It's my mind being like, could have seen better.
Yes, this evening is full moon, full super moon. Special. Which marks then the end of the Vassa period, which is the full moon of July to the full moon of October. So today, I had an email from Ajahn Tiradhammo this morning, Canadian Buddhist monk down at Wat Buddha Dharma, who's been here on many occasions. And he said today's what's called one or pansa. Thai words for one means the day. Ork means to out or to finish, and pansa is the word for the Vassa retreat period. So in Thailand, it's a one neben one ork pansa. Today's the moving out of that pansa Vassa period, and so that the monks this evening, they will chant the Patimokkha, the 227 precepts, the monastic discipline, which is chanted every 2 weeks, but especially on the ending of the Vassa retreat, significant. And also they'll have a special ceremony for it's called one pavarana, asking forgiveness of each other, and particularly of the senior monk, the abbot, which is a really good practice. So having spent 3 months living together without comings and goings, so that if you have an issue with another monastic, or the abbot's you find that you don't like him outside of the Vassa period, you can leave. But inside the Vassa period, you've determined to stay there for 3 months. So you've got to deal with it, deal with yourself. So stuff comes up, especially with the Vassa retreat period. People, well, the monastery may have a routine that's a bit more strict than usual, rather than like in Thailand, rather than having the wake up bell go at 3 in the morning, might go at 2 in the morning. And rather than having like with the meal, which is eaten out of the alms bowl, forest monks, but sometimes the villagers or lay people bring in trays of special dessert with little bowls, and so that you can have your little bowl with your ice cream or your dessert in it. But in the Vassa period, observing extra practices, if they do that, it has to go in with the curries and even mix it in. Things like that, and some monks will determine to only eat what they receive on alms round, which can be pretty basic in the Northeast. Bit of sticky rice, maybe some dried fish, bit of dried buffalo, vegetables, a couple of bananas, and that's it. As opposed to the villages and town people bringing extra food, which is sort of brought in as well, that would be had. So some monks go, I'm only going to eat whatever is I receive into my bowl on alms round. So they often lose weight and see there's other monks having nice food, and it's a practice. And even I remember in Thailand, Ajahn Pasano, who was the abbot, Canadian Buddhist monk, he'd even shake things up a bit. So because the food is generally offered to him, he ladles out curry, whatever, into his bowl and passes it on down the line. So the monks sit in order of hierarchy, in order of how many vassa you've got, how many years, vassa every year. And sometimes he would go, okay, so take all the food, all that lovely food down to the other end, and the lay people staying in the monastery, they eat first, then over to the anagarikas, the postulants, then the novice monks, and then all the way up. So he ends up with the last. He doesn't mind, but some of the monks are, oh, you know, I've been here for 15 years and working hard at being number 3, and now I'm getting sort of the skerricks, and it's a practice. So because of the extra intensity of practice, stuff comes up, people get a bit more irritable, uneased, and therefore it's also important to then ask forgiveness of each other and to give forgiveness. Yes, I do forgive you for being grumpy or whatever. Even some monks will determine not to speak for 3 months. And for them, maybe it's easy, don't have to speak, but the other monks have got to, like, it's more difficult trying to communicate with them. And as the monk that's not speaking might write a message, and you've got to read the message. So forgiveness is a really, really good practice that helps to heal any unease, any angst that may have occurred. And then generally after the Vassa Retreat period, there's a katina, which is like a sort of a special robe offering occasion where people bring robes to offer the monks. The monks will actually have to make up a robe out of some white cloth and dye it and have it all sort of sewn, cut up, sewn, dyed, and presented to the abbot within the day. That's another practice. And then after that, monks will tend to go off to different monasteries. So sort of saying goodbye to monks that you might have been sitting with, connecting with for at least for 3 months, maybe even longer. Some of them may go overseas. So moving on, letting go. So today being a significant time in that way, and especially because during the Vassa period, monks, unless there's a special reason, they can't spend a night outside of the monastery where they've determined to stay. Monastery or retreat center, or maybe it's a cave or a place that they've determined, this is my place for the next 3 months. So they will then start to move around more and visit different places. Generally, when I was a monk, I'd stay in the International Forest Monastery, Wat Ba Nanachat, for about a year. And then after that, go away for a year, come back for a year, go away for a year. So being able to spend time with different teachers around Thailand and different monasteries, different environments. So it's all good learning. Have different experiences. Go and stay in a big forest, or go and stay in a cave, or go and stay monastery down on the Gulf of Siam on the cliffs that go down to the ocean. Go and stay right out in the backwoods on the Laotian border. So just different places to gain experience and putting oneself in a situation that's different from the usual. Often we grow when we're outside of the comfort zone. That can be good. And certainly now monastics, they not just in Thailand, but obviously around the world in different environments, different monasteries around the world. So this evening, I was actually thinking to read out an essay that Pip, who comes to the retreat days, had written about early Buddhism. She's back in Perth at the moment. She's written quite a nice sort of summary essay of early Buddhism. But I was thinking, because we're a small group, that maybe maybe to use the time for any questions or comments that you might have. Questions, comments around your meditation practice, about aspects of Buddhism that you might have been aware of, or question or reading about even early Buddhism, and even about the Vassa Retreat period. Obviously, if we'll be having the last retreat day this coming Sunday, special occasion for those that can come. So any questions or comments?
I guess with the Vassa, so they'll be visiting monks as well, right? So they come from other monasteries and then do the whole Vassa at a different monastery, and then they would go back to their own monastery usually afterwards, or
elsewhere. Yeah. Depends upon how many Vassa, how many years as a monk you've got. Generally, you spend the first 5 years with your teacher as like an apprenticeship. It may, and it generally does, certainly in Thailand, because there's plenty of monasteries and plenty of branch monasteries of Ajahn Chah, where the discipline is always the same, the rules, even the monastic rules are the same for all monks, but the routine and particular sort of monastic practices are the same throughout the various branch monasteries. There's over 100 branch monasteries in Thailand of Ajahn Chahs. And so that, again, I spent my first Vassa at Wat Pah Nanach Chat, and my second Vassa out at branch monastery out on the Laotian border, and came back to Wat Pah Nanach Chat. Then I spent time at another branch monastery. Sometimes it wouldn't be a full year. It might be go for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or maybe a year. But all in the same sort of Ajahn Chah sort of collective. But then after 5 years, that's when monks might go elsewhere, even go sort of traveling. And in Thailand, you can go wandering, walking from place to place, staying in different forests and jungles and groves and caves. And because it's Thailand, people know what you are, what you're doing. They will offer you some food.
Would you ever stay at, would it always be Theravada monasteries that you'd stay at, or would you go to other?
Yeah, so certainly in Thailand, there's pretty much just Theravada monasteries, Thailand being a Theravada Buddhist country, but
So we'd go to Vietnam.
certainly that could be an option. Yeah. So monks might go to Vietnam, go to Laos, go to Burma, Cambodia. We'd have a different experience. There's obviously the language could be an issue. Or go overseas, go and spend some time at different monasteries, different Buddhist monasteries, which could be not just of the Theravada tradition, but Vajrayana or Mahayana or Zen.
So that's encouraged usually, that have it with...
Not necessarily encouraged, but if someone felt would be important for their practice, that they would sort of generally be okay.
It depends on the individual.
Yeah. Annabelle?
Is Vassa only Theravada?
No, well, Vassa is means the rains period, and so the Buddha stipulated, or designated, that monastics need to observe the Vassa retreat period. So certainly in Theravada Buddhism, that's quite a significant thing, and though it may not be particularly observed in some of the other Buddhist traditions, maybe don't observe this sort of 3-month period.
Would they still recognize it, but they maybe don't stay in one place for 3 months, and they don't?
Maybe both, depending upon the particular tradition or school. And obviously the Vassa, as in rainy season, so the tropics particularly Southeast Asia. So in Tibet, they wouldn't have like a tropical rainy season. China maybe doesn't either. So it's a little bit different. So that's where Buddhism became modified and changed as it moved into different regions. Even what monks and nuns would wear, because even though the traditional Theravada robe can be worn in really cold climates. I wore it in Switzerland when it was 15 degrees below, a meter and a half of snow, just with lots of jumpers underneath the robe, woolens and so forth. But obviously in different countries, such as Tibet, the monks wear robes that are particular to them, and China or even Vietnam, the monks and nuns wear robes that are a bit different. Which is sort of I guess a sign symbol of the fact that we're not Theravada, we're Mahayana, and often going back to their own sort of pre-Buddhist sort of cultural traditions, which is certainly apparent in Vajrayana Tibetan Buddhism. A lot of the practices are pre-Buddhist, that have sort of been absorbed into their Buddhist tradition. So certainly Theravada Buddhism is the most that aligns to the way in which the Buddha taught, practiced 2,500 years ago, and particularly the forest tradition, so monks that live and practice in forest environments. So living very much as monks and nuns did 2,500 years ago, which then aligns with early Buddhism, which is what we've been looking at over the Vassa Retreat, that period of about a couple of hundred years from the time of the Buddha, where the Buddha was alive and taught, up until the time of King Ashoka. And after that, various sort of sects were developing and schools sort of occurring, and more of the ism of the Buddha's teachings developed into the Buddhism, which is why it can be really important to reflect back what is early Buddhism, and what was the Buddha talking about, what were the early Buddhist teachings, so that it's not forgotten, and even maybe aligning back to it, because things can get sort of a bit off course, and as time goes by, sort of further, like if you're on a path but you end up sort of a few degrees out, the more you go along those few degrees, it veers off and gets quite away from the actual path or center.
Was it just Theravada Buddhism that has stopped women from ordaining, or the other schools? Just obviously in early Buddhism, talk about the Buddha welcomed women and encouraged women. And there were some really amazing women that became enlightened. And the talk I mentioned about Ajahn Brahmali, who's in the UK, where they were trying to get more support for a monastery for nuns over there. I think it was the first monastery in the UK for nuns. So yes, I'm curious if that has crept into all the schools, or
no, it hasn't. So that in Mahayana there was still a school of fully ordained women, bhikkhunis, the equivalent of the bhikkhu. The bhikkhu is the male monk, and bhikkhuni the female sort of monastic. So the Buddha, the way in which the Buddha set up the tradition and the ordination required being ordained by a senior bhikkhuni, but in the Theravada tradition, the bhikkhunis died out, and so that there was no senior bhikkhunis to ordain new bhikkhunis.
Is that in Sri Lanka as well, or just Thailand?
I would have been there was never bhikkhunis in Thailand. So it would have been in India, possibly Sri Lanka. And so that because there were still bhikkhunis in the Mahayana tradition, they found a way of ordaining women in the Mahayana tradition, and then it's sort of combining into the Theravada tradition. So sort of it's a renaissance, like a rebirth of the previous tradition, which is good.
But so like male bhikkhu abbot can't ordain a female.
No,
Female
no.
or female.
Yeah. So even though people say, "Oh, Ajahn Brahm, the abbot in Perth, ordained bhikkhunis," no, he didn't ordain them because he can't. But he helped to facilitate it to occur, and there was a senior bhikkhuni came out from overseas to do the ordination.
The Buddha actually established that.
Yeah. So in a way, in our lifetime, we're seeing a tradition occurring that had died out, and making available path women to be fully ordained bhikkhunis.
Which is great because, I always think about, women have that nurturing, caring, a different capacity for metta than men, not like a more natural capacity for it. So I think it's great that we can encourage more of that, support more of that.
Yeah. So certainly that then changes some of the sort of the way in which Buddhism will be expressed, and the way in which monasteries are set up. So like in Perth, there's a separate monastery for monks and one for nuns, and the nuns sort of look after themselves and run things. So the changing sort of face and form and even function of Buddhism in the world, particularly in now the 21st century. And certainly one doesn't need to be a fully ordained monastic to practice the Buddha's teachings. One can be a novice, 10 precepts, that's enough, even 8 precepts. Layperson. Certainly in the Buddha's time, there were many lay people, not monastics, that became enlightened. It's just generally easier if you have the form and the discipline and the routine and the rules of a monastery and as a monastic to practice.
I think in the Buddha's time, as a layperson, your life is probably simpler as well. Like there's so many distractions in this modern world.
There are.
Make it harder as a layperson. I think, to switch off.
Yeah, layperson back then was probably like maybe a farmer, maybe, and that would seem so peaceful to be in fields all day now compared to our lives. Like you can always have a contemplative practice about your life. I mean, we can of course adopt it.
It's all relative.
Yeah, a contemplative practice now. Exactly, it is all relative, but I do think that spaciousness gives more space for us to really digest a thought instead of having to quickly move on to the next thought.
And I certainly feel that whilst certainly in my early years as a monastic, the majority of monastics ordaining were younger people, but I think there may be a bit more of a movement where there's older people ordaining as monastics, having done their lay life and maybe had their families and done the work and so forth, and engaged in the world, but also seeing, well, I've done that, it's not fulfilling anymore, and I want to focus on spiritual practice. And so that in a way aligning with the Indian tradition, the 3 phases of a person's life. The first phase of growing up, getting educated, getting married, having kids. Second phase, working, family until you're 60 or so. And then the third phase is then focusing on spiritual practice, going and spending time in the ashram or ordaining and or monastery, so that that may be somewhat of a developing movement. So good to set up some places.
Yeah.
So rather than sort of a retirement village or home playing golf and sitting around with some people that way around the pool, it's like, well, no, we're going off to the monastery. Get into the meditation. So we should finish for this evening. So thank you for coming out, and do have a look at the moon, full moon. This is the first and last time you'll see the full moon in October in 2224. The 2024. Yeah, 2024. Yeah, next year it'll be a different year.
Yeah.
So special occasion, full moon October this year. Enjoy it, and hopefully we'll see some of you on Sunday for our Vassa Retreat Day. Glenda, would you like to come along on Sunday?
Unfortunately, I won't be here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm heading back to my house on Saturday.
Okay. You can join us online if you like.
Yeah, the online works for me.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm quite happy for you to keep doing that.
Just be Zoom.
So if I don't get it, if I don't, but are you recording it?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Yeah, so if I don't get, that's why I like it, because I often can't do it at that specific time. It's good for me to be able to watch the recording. Thank you.
Good. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Good.
Thank you.